Hello everyone, and welcome to this full body massage movement practice. So make sure that you have a couple of blocks and a cozy blanket nearby, and we will start kneeling with our hands resting on our lap and our eyes closed. And then begin by moving the spine in any which way that feels good for you, just to work out any initial kinks or tension, maybe any emotional or mental tension as well, before we start to settle in for practice. And then come to stillness and take one deep breath in through the nose and a slightly slower exhale through the mouth. Blink the eyes open, and then take the hands out in front of you, almost coming up into a tabletop. But first we're going to tuck all of our toes underneath, and then we are slowly going to walk our hands back, sitting our glutes down towards our heels. You'll start to feel an intense stretch in the bottom of your feet, so if it feels best for your hands to stay on the mat here, keep them there. Or you can walk them up your thighs, sitting yourself all the way back onto your feet. Breathe here. Perhaps there's a lot going on here. It's totally normal. And then bring the hands back down to the mat, untuck the toes, tops of the feet flat on the mat. Sit your hips back on your heels as you walk your hands all the way back beside your hips and lift your knees up any amount, stretching out the tops of the feet now. Remembering not to hold our breath. Slowly lower the knees down, walk the hands back out in front of you, tuck the toes, this time lift the hips up and back, coming into a downward facing dog. Trying to keep stillness in this downward facing dog, but allowing the breath to move through. And we'll repeat all three stretches, so slowly lower the knees down to the mat, keep the toes tucked, sit the glutes back onto the heels, maybe the hands come back even more. Take a breath here. Hands to the mat, untuck the toes, sit back, walk the hands beside the hips, and lift the knees. Lower the knees, walk the hands forward, tuck the toes again, and then lift the hips up and back, downward facing dog. And we'll move through that whole thing again, keeping it as fluid as we can and keeping the breath moving. So knees down, walk yourself back, coming into that stretch for the feet, a little further each time we do it. Hands to the mat, untuck the toes, stretching the tops of the feet. Lowering the knees, hands in front of you, tuck the toes, downward facing dog. Maintaining a sense of calm and ease, let's move through this one more time. Lower the knees, sit back onto your heels. Hands to the mat, transfer your way into the next one. Top of the feet stretch. Lower the knees, hands to the mat, tuck the toes, downward facing dog. This time, pedal out the feet. Feel free to move around the hips. And then lower the knees back down, untuck the toes, and we will wag our tail. So we're going to lift both feet up, take both feet out to one side of the mat, gaze goes towards the feet, and then swing the feet over to the other side of the mat. So the gaze goes where the feet are. So you'll find this really satisfying stretch in the sides of the body. You can try and take it a little bit further each time. Keeping the elbows straight, keep pushing through the hands. And then coming back to center, take some jump ropes with the spine. So moving the spine in circles. Try not to think about it too much. This should be a really organic movement. Similar to cat-cow in that we're letting the belly drop down to the mat and then swinging the ribs over to one side, puffing the spine up to the ceiling and bringing the ribs back down the other side. Take a few in one direction. Let the hips and the head move. Then switch to the other direction. Breathing naturally here. This is really for your own enjoyment. Come back to center, tuck the toes and lift your hips up and back, downward facing dog. And then lift the right leg up to the sky briefly before stepping the right foot through between your hands. Lower the back knee, untuck the toes. And right away, we're going to pivot on that left knee, bringing the right foot back behind us and walking your upper body over to the left side of the mat. So the right leg will straighten and the right foot will plant flat on the mat. Come up onto your fingertips, find length in your spine, and then slowly rock your hips back towards your left heel, forehead to the mat, and then rock yourself back up. So as you let the hips sink back to that left heel, let the spine arch as if you're coming into a cow spine, and then when you roll yourself back up, use a cat spine. You can inhale as you come up, exhale as you roll back. The next time you come up, walk the hands towards the front of the mat. And then heel toe the right foot out towards the edge of the mat, coming onto the outside of the foot, opening up through that hip. Untuck the left toes if they're not already. And then plant the left hand on the mat slightly ahead of the shoulder. Find lots of length through the spine as you let the hips sink down. And then on your inhale, begin to peel the right arm and right fingertips all the way up towards the sky, gaze follows. On your exhale, spiral back down, dip the right hand any amount underneath the body. Repeat, so inhale as you peel open, spiraling open, and exhale as you thread the needle. So this should feel like a really nice massage for the back, for the hips. If it's a lot, peel the fingertips up and then simply place the hand back down towards the mat so you don't have to thread the needle or go down so far. Take this to where it feels good and productive for your body. Bring the right hand back down to the mat and then tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, and then take some rocks back and forth. Nothing big, just enough to open the hips. Get a little bit more movement there. And then to come out of that, we'll just step the right foot back and come back to our downward facing dog, getting ready for the other side. Left leg goes up to the sky this time, and then step the foot through between the hands. Lower the right knee down to the mat, untuck the toes, And then right away, pivot on that right knee, foot goes back behind you, walk the hands over to the left side of the mat. Left leg straightens out, left foot flat on the mat. Come up onto the fingertips, find length through the spine. And then exhale as you sink the hips back. Inhale as you puff the spine up towards the sky and pull yourself back up. Keep moving through this with your breath, taking it as far as you'd like to make it as satisfying as you need. And the next time you come up, walk the hands over to the top of the mat, to the left foot. And then this time, heel toe that left foot out to the outer edge, opening up through the hips. Right hand plants down on the mat, slightly ahead of the shoulder. First, find lots of length through the spine. And then as you inhale, peel the left fingertips all the way up to the sky. Exhale, dip the left fingertips, threading the needle any amount under that right arm. So inhale as you open up and exhale as you curl down. Again, modify this. If it's a bit much for you, you can just bring that hand up to the sky and then place it back down on the mat. Last reach, and then bring the left hand back down, tuck the right toes, lift the right knee, and take those rocks back and forth. Left foot steps back to downward facing dog. Lower the knees down, untuck the toes. We'll come into puppy pose, so keep the hips stacked on top of the knees as you walk the hands far out in front of you, letting the chest sink down towards the mat. If this is a lot for you, you can keep your forehead down on the mat as opposed to your chin, but if you're feeling a little more open, rest the chin down. Either way, on each exhale, imagine your chest and your armpits getting heavier and heavier. And if you're like me, you might get a little adjustment in your thoracic spine, which always feels so good. Next stop is Sphinx. So begin to tuck your pelvis under as you roll the spine up towards the sky, head peels up off the mat, and then let your hips sink down, followed by your belly, coming down onto your elbows. Arms are parallel, fingertips spread wide. As you inhale, pull your chest through the gateway of your arms, taking the gaze forward, shoulders down. As you exhale, curl the spine up towards the sky, gaze goes down towards the belly. Again, inhale as you pull your chest through your arms, and exhale, tuck the chin, puff the chest up. So moving through that same cat-cow spine, but we're in Sphinx. Keep the toes pointed long behind you. roll yourself down, rest your forehead on your hands, and give your hips a shake. Extend the right arm out straight in line with the shoulder, palm is flat on the mat. Plant the left palm underneath your left shoulder. Point the left toes up to the sky, and then pushing off the left hand, float those left toes back anywhere behind you. They don't have to go far. Right cheek is resting and breath is moving through this shoulder and chest opening. Stay here if that's enough for you. If you want a little more, you can peel those left fingertips up towards the sky. Bring those fingertips back down if they're up, and then come through center, making your way to the other side. So teeing the left arm out in line with the left shoulder. Keep that palm flat on the mat. Plant the right palm down underneath the shoulder, point the right toes, and then roll over onto your left side. Staying here if that's enough, or extend those right fingertips up towards the sky. Come back through center, rest the forehead on the hands, and give your hips a little shake. Take the feet a little bit wider than hips width apart and point the toes behind you. Take the hands as wide as the mat, coming up onto the fingertips, and then begin to peel your head, your chest, and maybe your belly too off the mat, coming into cobra stretch. And then reversing that, bringing the belly softly down, the chest, followed by the head. Make any adjustments with the hands if you want to take this a little further or take it a little shallower. So we roll up with the head, the chest, and then the belly, straightening out the elbows maybe. And then we reverse out of it, bending the elbows, lowering the belly down, the chest, and then the head. We'll take one more of these, holding here at the top. Take the chin over towards the left shoulder, gaze follows. And then chin rolls down towards the chest, over towards the right shoulder. Do this one more time. Pushing through those fingertips. Come back to center and slowly roll down, resting your head on your hands. Shake your hips out. And then press through your hands and make your way up and back, coming to sit on your heels just for a moment to let that all neutralize. Bring the hands to the mat, tuck the toes and lift your hips up and back, downward facing dog. Walk the feet forward, coming into a forward fold. Keep a soft bend in the knees here. And then all we're going to do is begin to bend more into one leg as we straighten the other. These are called elephant walks, and I love them. And then slowly bend into the other knee, straightening the other leg. So you can let your hips go a little bit more into the leg that's bending. and you may feel a stretch on the outer edge of the straight leg. Keep the head heavy down to the mat. Move thoughtfully. This is less of an intense hamstring stretch and more of an invitation for the backs of the legs to open up. Come back through center, and then heel toe the feet out almost as wide as the mat, and the toes are facing out towards the corners of the mat. And then sit the hips low, coming into Malasana squat. So here we're bringing our hands to chest center in prayer, and we're using our elbows to press against the inner edges of our thighs to encourage those knees out, tracking over the toes. That resistance of the elbows will also help you find more length through the spine. Keep breathing. Take the hands out in front of you on the mat. Keep the knees as wide as they are, and then slowly lower them down. And then bring the toes back behind you to meet each other. So you're coming into this wide diamond position. Walk the hands back in line with the hips. And our first step here is to lift the hips slightly and tuck the pelvis under, and then sit your hips back down. So this is a wide leg hero's pose. Maybe this is enough. If you want to take it a little bit further, slowly you can lower yourself down onto your elbows. Arms are parallel with each other. If you come down to your elbows, engage the glutes a little bit to lift the hips ever so slightly to deepen the stretch. And if you want to take this further still, come all the way down onto your back. And then lift the arms up overhead, resting the backs of the hands lazily on the mat. Wherever you are, breathe into those thighs, hip flexors, and psoas muscles. If you are on your back, bring your hands down to hold the sides of your calves and use that grip to prop yourself up onto your elbows. From here, replace your elbows with your hands one at a time, and then come all the way up to sit. And then everyone bring your hands out in front of you. Slowly close the legs together and sit back, coming into a kneeling pose just to let all of that settle. Roll to one hip so you can swing your legs out in front of you. And then grab your blocks and make sure that you have them nearby on either side of the mat. Maybe grab your blanket as well. We'll make our way down to our backs, keeping the knees bent and our feet flat on the mat. And then grab one of your blocks lift your hips just high enough so you can slide that block underneath your sacrum at the lowest height, and it's perpendicular to your body. Important here to make sure that it's not on your lower back at all, but really on that bony part. And then draw the right knee in towards the chest. Once it's there, you can slowly let the left leg lengthen out. Coming into this satisfying wind relieving pose with the addition of the block, which I imagine will help you feel a little bit more in your hip flexor. Try to keep the legs as relaxed as possible. It's not super muscular here. And then draw that left foot back in. Place the right foot down, draw the left knee in towards the chest, and then slowly lengthen the right leg out. Bring the right foot in, left foot down, and then take both legs up towards the sky. Again, not a muscular effort here. The legs, the feet are relaxed. You can take the arms down beside you, palms facing up, and close the eyes. And then bring a little jiggle into the legs here. Nothing big, nothing technical. Just enough so that you feel the contents of your legs just kind of jiggling about. Relaxing any last holdings of tension. And then bend the knees, let the heels flop down towards the glutes. Take a few ankle rolls here. Enjoy this last decompression. And feet come down to the mat. Lift the hips just enough to take that block out from underneath them. And we'll set up for a shavasana. Of course, you're welcome to take this any way you like. I brought the blocks here because I like to put them underneath my calves and just let my legs rest heavy on them for a little extra support. And then I always cover myself up with a blanket. When we find ourselves in these really deep states of relaxation, our body temperature will drop slightly, so always nice to have that extra bit of comfort. Once you are in your cozy shavasana, I invite you to do nothing. It's really the best part about shavasana is that there's nothing to do. And sometimes we need to practice our letting go, do nothing muscles. So I recommend staying here for at least 5 minutes if you can. Take your time. I will leave you to it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you feel a little more balanced. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.